So I'm Alex Halderman. I'm a professor of computer science at the University of Michigan in the U.S. E-voting is something that's been an interest of mine for about the last 10 years. And it's an interest of mine in particular because it sounds like it would be something so wonderful to be able to use computers to count votes securely, to be able to vote over the internet with all of the convenience that the technology brings. Perhaps we could reduce costs, perhaps we could increase participation. At the same time, e-voting raises some of the most difficult challenges in the field of computer security. Many countries around the world use e-voting or are starting to try internet voting. And I've been very lucky over the past few years to have been involved in some of the first hands-on studies of these different systems. For instance, in 2007, I was part of a team at Princeton that did the first hands-on security analysis by an independent party of an e-voting machine used in the U.S. This thing, the Diebold AccuVote TS, was the most widely used e-voting machine in the United States at the time. We spent a summer working in secret to reverse engineer it, and I don't know what the big secret is. It's basically a PC inside a fancy case with a touchscreen, a removable memory card to load the ballot design and unload the votes. Anyway, we figured out some interesting things about its security. So it turned out that it was just a normal operating system kernel and an application that read and totaled the votes. And by doing some funny things with the memory card, you could cause the machine to replace its software without any cryptographic checks with whatever software you wanted. So we came up with an application called the Stuffer that you could load into the machine. It would present a nice UI on the touchscreen, let you pick who you wanted to vote and by how much. It would then proceed to change every record of the vote because this machine just maintained the votes in electronic memory. In that way, you could, say, have an election between George Washington and Benedict Arnold, the famous traitor of the American Revolution. And whenever we would do this election, Benedict Arnold would always win because we had tampered with the machine. This is so easy to do that even a bunch of, in my case, naive grad students could pull it off in a few weeks thanks to the computerization of the vote. We also discovered that thanks to the computerization of the technology, we could create a voting machine virus that would spread on those memory cards from machine to machine to machine in the course of a normal election cycle, so that someone who had just a few minutes alone with one voting machine could change the election outcome in an entire state. That's really the danger of e-voting to me, is not just that tampering is possible with paper ballots too. It's that tampering, because of the power of computerization, can be much more wide scale with a very small conspiracy and also very hard to detect. But internet voting is even harder than voting on just a standalone machine in a polling place, right? Because internet voting, you have the problem that the voter is using their own machine outside a protected environment where they might be vulnerable to being coerced, to having their usernames and passwords stolen, to imposter sites claiming to be the real voting system, to malware on their machines, even to botnets that have already infected large numbers of machines, compromising the outcome of the election. In your country, if your country is considering adopting such a system, please be wary of that. I'll conclude, here's what I see as the fundamental problem with internet voting. That we want voting systems where you or I or our friends or Tarvey Martins or Vladimir Putin or the NSA can't just hack in and change the election outcome. It's as simple as that. We want democracy. Major fraud needs to be at least as hard as it is